Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com here with a Magicka Templar PvP build I called Omega for the Elder Scrolls Online Update 29 Flames of Ambition. This build has crazy survivability, mobility, sustain, and good bursts with our gear selection and sets. This video is going to share how I've been playing the Magplar in PvP and what I've learned so you can take this build as a template and adjust according to your own playstyle. We will cover all the juicy typical information: proc set, gear loadout, non-proc sets, skills, race, consumables, and more. The Omega build is intended for folks that enjoy the Templar class and need a great starting point entering PvP as a solo damage dealer or in small groups, because it has a great burst heal and it's easy to use with the skills. Timestamps are in the description below if you wish to skip ahead, as well as other important links including the written build on my website. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, as it helps my channel grow. Thanks for watching. We're going to start with the gear first, and what I kind of have a loadout to hit the perfect synergy between bursting folks down, surviving, mobility, and resource sustain. So right now, as the game stands, that's our target, that's what we're aiming for, and that's what this gear loadout primarily does. I'm going to start with the proc set loadout because the majority of the game going forward is probably going to be proc sets. So the first is Monster Helms. I go with Zons. This is from Scale Collar Peak. Is the helm, the shoulder comes in the pledges. And the reason why is you're going to be doing light attack weaving, but this is single target focus, heavy, nasty burst that pairs well with our other destruction staff. So it's kind of a pair. Think about it as two beams. They put two laser beams on these targets, it's going to melt. Because if you're playing Battlegrounds primarily, you need to melt one target. And Zons allows you to do that exceptionally well. Some other options are the usual suspects: Grothdar, heavy AoE, very nice. Also Valken Scoria, if you're running a little bit more dots with your skills. Also a very good burst set, but Battlegrounds, and specifically high MMR, is about burst, and you're going to need it. Zons gives you the best. Speaking of burst and high MMR, the higher up you get, the more nasty it's going to get. And you're going to need some ways to survive. So Eternal Vigor is the 5-piece that I love to go with. It's an overland set from Western Skyrim and can be bought on the traders. And the reason I run this set all the time on Samur Magic builds is because it has crazy sustain and survivability. It comes in heavy if you're going to run on the body. So what I'd recommend you do is pick this up as a starting point. If you get this and you're doing very, very well, you could always move off of it and go with another damage producing set. Another good option is a light craftable set called Fortified Brass. It gives you a lot of armor, making you very tanky, but it comes in light armor, crafted in light armor. So what you can do is get all of the nice offensive penetration and all the perks that come with the passives in the light armor. Gives you a nice good blend, but I stick with Eternal Vigor as my main 5-piece on my body at all times. The next proc set we're going to run is Vatishram Solo Arena, the Perfected Vatishram Destruction Staff. Comes in Markarth, and if you can't get Perfected because you can't complete it, no worries. Just do normal and get a Lightning Staff because of the passives and the weapon skill line. This thing is disgusting nasty when you put this with Elemental Drain, which will come in a little bit, we'll talk about, and kind of close proximity with Zons doing light attack weaving. You're absolutely going to smelt one target, and that's what we're trying to do. Put so much nasty pressure on someone, there's no way they can survive. And so Vatishram with the 2-piece perfected weapon, it's just too good to pass up in high MMR. So we got 5 pieces of Eternal Vigor, and that comes in heavy. We got 2-piece Zons. We're going to run light, so we have 5-2. We're going to run a Destro Staff Lightning, and then our back bar is going to be Sword and Board. Potentinence, however you say that. What it does is, with a 2-piece on your back bar, reduces damage from players. So primarily when you're in your back bar, you're getting pressured, and this is where you're going to heal, pump people off you, cleanse, and so on. So it's a very, very strong 2-piece. If you only had 2 to choose from, this is the one I would do. Critical Repost is an alternative to this, and that set you can use in no procs, which we'll cover later. Very, very good craftable set as an alternative. And Potentinence, where you get that is Cyrodiil. Potentinence is where you get it, is from Cyrodiil PvP vendors. Velastris, there's a gear vendor there you can buy this from. So our jewelry, we're going to run a couple different things. We're going to run 2 pieces of trainee. Comes from the starter islands, and they're sold in a bunch of different traits, and you can get arcanes to start, but you're going to want to change that to infuse with spell damage to get the maximum burst you can. This is great because it gives you 2 pieces with a massive amount of resources that you're going to need. I tried willpower at first as a 2-piece, but if you just do the math on it, trainee adds a lot more resources overall. So you're lastly going to run Malachas, then you can leave it at Bloodthirsty or retrade it to infuse, also spell damage. This is not going to allow us to crit. We don't really care about that. We just care about ramping up our damage. This set may or may not be pretty nerfed next patch, so we may make some adjustments, but if you run it right now or in the future, it's still fantastic. It's a mythic set, requires the Greymore DLC, and if you can't get that, what I would do is swap out trainee and run 3 willpower if you don't or cannot get Malachas. On the body, I would run the traits 4 impenetrable with 3 sturdy, or 4 sturdy with 3 impenetrable, depending on how much you block. And then I would run all prismatic glyphs on my armor. The weapon, I'd run sharpen, and the back bar, I'd run power on the sword, sturdy on the shield. I'd run poisons, damage health poisons on my destro on the front bar, and I would probably run either magic steel on my back bar or leave it as is. All spell damage and chance on the jewelry, and then you could run all infuse if you have enough transmutes, but I go through a lot of them. So that's what you're going to run in proc sets now and probably in the future. So let's switch gears and talk about no procs. Currently, as of making this video, no procs are in Cyrodiil, and so what I do is I run light fortified brass, which I talked about earlier, craftable, Clockwork City. I've been using this set for years. Very, very good. It makes you tanky and light armor, plus you get the passives, give you nice offensive balance. So fortified brass is going to be our main 5-piece, and our secondary 5-piece we're going to run jewelry and a destruction staff lightning of spinners. Another good set that you can run in no proc. What spinners is going to do is have a lot of penetration. It's going to go very well running light armor because a lot of folks are going to be running around with tons and tons of armor in Cyrodiil. So this gives you nice without the burst because you can't run the procs. So 2 5-pieces going on at all times. Back bar is critical repost. That's another defense. Is going to give you some crit resistance on your back bar, very similar. And then you're going to run 1 heavy, 1 medium, Abdomahas, and Swarm Mother. This is going to give you a nice, massive stat pool. I do the exact same thing. I'd run 3 sturdy, 4 impen traits on my armor. I'd run sharpen on my weapon, and the back bar weapons, I go power sturdy with infused traits on the jewelry. Glyphs on the armor, I'd run all prismatic, poisons on my weapon, and then I'd run spell damage on my jewelry as well, giving you a nice blend of resource sustain, offensive potential, making a good solid setup. Option number 3, if you don't know, pretty soon Mid-Year Mayhem is going to be around the corner, meaning a lot of juicy AP to be had, especially in Imperial City. What I would recommend is one change to my proc set loadout, and that's Imperial Physique. This is a 5-piece. I'd run it in heavy. What it's going to do is give you about 6,000 magic, health, and stamina if you have 10,000 Telvar or more on you. You're going to blow this really sick, cool blue. People are going to see it. You're going to have a big flag over your head, but you're going to be very powerful as this of your main 5-piece. So I'd swap out Eternal Vigor. I'd swap in Imperial Physique, grab 10k Telvar Stones, and start hunting. Look at June or July when this comes around of 2021. It's going to be nasty fun. Okay, so that's the gear loadout. Take it for what you will and mold and adapt it. Let's talk about the skills, which is really the most important thing. Bar 1 on this, we're going to use Lightning Staff primarily for the passives, or we can also fully charge heavy attack, rip it off. It's just quite easier to get resource sustain that way, and it does a little bit of AoE damage at range, making it very nice if you don't have an ability on your bar to sit there and range pepper someone down. Working left to right, the very first ability is Toppling Charge. It's a gap closer with a stun. It hits very hard and sets off enemies off balance. Only issue is that it is quite easy to counter and experienced players, but it still provides you good mobility, hard hitting, and a stun worth keeping on your bar. Second ability up is Generation. This is going to give you moderate damage over time effect, but it's also going to give us the major sorcery, increasing our damage overall. So usually what I do is I start out casting this if I don't have the buff active or I'm using a potion to get it, then I close the gap with top lane charge. The next ability up is really our main dot, if you will, even though it's not a dot. But with our weapon, our Vatashran perfected weapon, and it turns it into just a nasty damage, which is Elemental Drain. It's going to debuff their armor, lower resistance. It's going to give us a restaining tool as well, and it's going to proc Vatashran perfected weapon, assuming we're within 15 meters, which should not be hard for us at all. So consider this not a dot necessarily, that's not what the skill is, but when we have that weapon on, it really treats it like that. You're going to see a laser beam go out to the target. It's going to absolutely melt. If you light attack weave in between, you're likely to get a Zon proc, adding to this effect. 2 beams on them at once. It's going to be very hard to survive. Then you're going to follow that up with Puncturing Sweeps. It's a main spammable. It's an AoE that does damage, but heals you based on the damage done. It's very nice. So it's good single target and or AoE. And the more experience you get with this class and this build, you'll be able to point and aim that conal in front of you, that area damage in front of you, to hit multiple targets. So as you progress through this build, don't just mindlessly sweeps. Ask yourself, can I hit 2 targets instead of 1? That's what makes a really good Templar. Radiant Glory is our single target execute that also heals us based off the damage dealt. It is countered by bashing, so you want to keep somewhat of a distance if you're playing against experienced players, because they will know how to bash you. You're not going to mindlessly use this all the time and just kind of beam just AFK. You're going to want to set up your main combo by using Degeneration, putting some Drain, making sure it beams on someone, and then try stunning them. Once you stun them, if the beams up, they're not going to be able to counter, get away, and or heal effectively. That's when you want to beam them. Assume their health's going to dip below about 50%, 35%. That's when you want to beam them. If they're above that, there's really no point. So use this not liberally, but more conservatively, right? When in doubt, a sweeps is probably better, and then finish them off with this as you're backpedaling a little bit. Keep them in that 15-meter range, but don't be right on top of them, because experienced players will bash you. Dawnbreaker's Mine is our ultimate. There's a lot of reasons I use this. People are like, why do you have Dawnbreaker's Mine? It's physical damage. It is physical damage, but if you look at the tooltip, it almost hits as hard as a Meteor. Plus, it's much less easy to counter than Meteor. Meteor is great in Cyrodiil or big, huge keep fights where people might be lagging a little bit. They're not able to counter this. But the higher ELO or MMR you get, the more you go up, Meteor is so much easier to counter, and that's what I ran into. So what this is, it's very low cost, making it allow me to use it frequently. Stuns, in a cone, AoE damage, and also just by having our bar, there's a passive in Fighters Guild that's going to give us ultimate back when we get a killer's blow. When we get a killing blow. So it's really worth using, not only for activating it, but for that passive. Just based on the low cost, it's almost always up, and I can finish off a target, put another dot on them, another pressure, stun them, and boom. Beam them out with 2 beams up, they're gone. I would swap this in and out if I were playing large heat battles. So I would put the Destro ult that travels with you, I would put that on my bar instead of Dawnbreaker or Smiting, because you're going to have massive, nasty AoE, and this just ain't going to cut it in big, huge Cyrodiil fights. Okay, moving to our back bar. This is a Sword and Shield, and it's made for survival. I ran something similar to this exact bar setup for 5+ years now, 6 years, because it works, and I stick to it, and let me explain why. The premise of the Templar is building your house, right? So you're going to drop your channel focus. This is going to give your major resistance buffs, increases our healing via Mire Mending, and it gives us resource sustain, and next patch it might be even stronger, so I may switch to the Stamwarp. We'll see how that works. But you're going to have this little rune here, and that's going to kind of be your home base. You can step in and out of it, and it's very, very cheap. So you're going to build your house with 1, with Channel Focus, 2, Extended Ritual. This is going to cleanse 5 negative effects when you cast, and it's going to heal slightly in a massive little area, plus allies can use synergies, which is really nice. This is the make and break survivability tool for the Templar and why it's incredibly strong, incredibly defensive to play a Templar. No, it's not Breath of Life. It's Extended Ritual if you're a good Templar. The fact that I can cleanse 5 negative effects is staggering considering the entire meta of PvP right now is procs. Being able to cleanse them after I get hit by 3 or 4 different ones is going to lower people's burst potential on me, though this has a high cost, so you're going to want to use it sparingly. Keep your eyes peeled to the bottom center of your screen. You're going to be looking for negative effects. When you have 3 or more, you need to do the ritual. The 4,000 or so magic that it takes to cost it is going to greatly outweigh the amount of damage they're going to put on you on this, so it will be well worth it to cast Extended Ritual, and what I considered the best ability the Templar has in survival. Right up there in terms of survival is Race Against Time. This comes from the Sigic Order skill line. There's really one alternative I found to running this, and that's Vampire, Elusive Mist, but I don't feel they've done a good job with the Vampire skill line, and the negatives are not worth it, so I move away, go Race Against Time. It's going to give you 4 seconds of speed, plus the ability not to be immobilized and remove mobilizing snares. Meaning, when a Dragon Knight comes on you, they're going to immediately put 3 to 5 dots on you, right? You're going to cleanse. So that's going to make them mad right there. Then they might Talons you, lock you in place. Then you're going to cast Race Against Time and get mobility. So you have a couple counters, both to dots and limiting mobility, making you quick and fast, even on a slow old Magpar. So don't be spam casting this, but it is quite useful. Also, having this on our back bar gives us a passive with a small shield when we block. That's why I light up. Cannot beat Race Against Time for mobility and survival. Next ability up is Binding Javelin. This is a single target knockback and stun. What I use it for is like a punt. So when there's 20 people beating on me, there's someone putting pressure on me and I'm healing, the goal is to heal, to drop my ritual, to escape, but it's also to flip the fight. And so how I flip the fight in my advantage, I get my buffs, I build my house, maybe I'll heal up to about 75% health or so, then I'll punt them by knocking them back with the javelin, quickly bar swapping, toppling charge, and then going through my offensive rotation, putting pressure on them. So use it as that way, or knocking people off ledges is always fun too. Or even knocking people into lava. It's hysterical, do it. Next up is Honor the Dead. It's a burst single target heal with resource sustain. I prefer this because I play Battlegrounds pretty much 99% of the time solo, so I'm primarily healing myself. And if I have to heal an ally, it will burst heal for 10k or more, making it a fantastic heal. And it can survive, basically keep you and your team alive. It's a no-brainer. The resource sustain in Battlegrounds where there's 0 champion points is well worth it. And then I have Spell Wall as my defensive ultimate. Again, been using this for years. I love that it's low cost. I love that it's a reflect, and it gives you the damage mitigation as well. Primarily why I run Sword and Board. So what I do is, if I'm going to charge into a situation where I know there's going to be a gazillion people range casting me down, I'll pop this, because I know for 7 seconds or so, I can go pretty offensive and not worried about getting insta-smoke, because I have the mitigation up, and I have the reflex up. Those two things allow me to go pretty ham for about 7 seconds offensively. No, I won't have an offensive ultimate, but I usually got enough weapons in the kitchen, I just need to survive for a little bit. Love Spell Wall. If you don't have this or don't like this, another one you could run is Remembrance. That's a little more group utility, but it's not as mobile. So I think mobility is a key. Spell Wall is great for me. Okay, so how do we use this? So for survival, I've kind of talked about this, but you're going to build your house. So you're going to build your house and you're going to block, and you're going to constantly look at your stamina. When your stamina is around 5,000, you're not blocking anymore. Stop. Because you're 1 CC break away from dying. So your goal is to be above 5,000 stamina at all times. And then you're trying to get to around 10,000. If you can have 10,000 or so, you're 1 dodge roll and you have 1 CC break. So you're kind of running those timers and looking at your resources constantly. So don't overblock with this build. You're going to build your house and you're going to punt people off you constantly. When in doubt, if you don't know where to start and how to play this, double bar Breath of Life, or Honor the Dead, excuse me. Double bar it. Drop beam, put it in the exact same key on each bar, hold block and spam breath. It's better than dying. Once you start working and know how to build the house, you know how to punt people off, you know how to line of sight, you know how to do all those fancy tricks, then take it off. Take the training wheels off. There's nothing wrong with double barring Honor the Dead until you get used to it. When in doubt, hold block, Breath of Life until you get comfortable with it. Now on damage phase, what we do is we buff with entropy. We build our house kind of before, buff with entropy before we go charge in. Then I close the gap with top lane charge, unless they're already on top of me. And then I'll use elemental drain and try to light attack, weave, and sweeps. Essentially what we're trying to do is proc our Zons by light attack weaving, and then proc our beam with Batishram perfected, but we want to do it around when they can be stunned. So you're going to be looking around their feet to see if there's an opportunity to stun them. You can either use the javelin or the top lane charge, because you want to set this up. If you can get the beams going and then stun them, there's much higher likelihood you're going to kill them, because they won't be able to react quickly to all the incoming damage. Sweeps, beam them out, and DB for even some extra damage. Let's talk about all the other added things to think about when you're running this build, and that's race to start with. Racial choices, I think Dark Elf is the best overall. What it does is allows you to play magic and stamina, have a big massive magic and stamina pool, gives you weapon and spell damage, very good, but it gives you fire resistance. Last time I've checked, if you played Cyrodiil, you're constantly getting siege, magic dragonites, whipping the crap out of you, all sorts of stuff. That fire resistance, along with offensive potential, giving me extra stamina, don't undervalue that. That's huge. When I can get to 16, 18k stamina, I'm blocking, dodging, I'm just a pain in the butt to kill. Next up would be a high elf, overall really good magic. Argonian's pretty good, pretty tanky, and then a Breton for really good resource sustain. The consumables that I use for this build, I go with Clockwork Citrus. That gives me a good overall stat pool with good resource sustain. So I like that. You can go with the other gold food for max stats and do a little more heavy attacks, but I think this overall works for me. Potions, I like to run tripods for healing, giving me all flood of resources, but I also carry on me immovable potions as well. So immovable potions going to give you 10 seconds where they can't CC you. If you combine this with the Sword and Board ultimate charging in, it's going to be incredibly offensively powerful, because you're not going to be able to be CC'd, they're not going to be able to range nuke you down, and you're going to have damage mitigation. So I keep both of those on me. It goes very well. Poisons, I already talked about that, but damage, health, no recovery. There's a million different types of poisons, escapist, magic steel, stam seal, and so on. Experiment with what works best for you, but when in doubt, just keep it simple. Mundus Stones, you have a bunch of choices, but Apprentice is going to be the way to go all around for damage and healing. Atronach as well is very good for sustain when you're playing with no CP, or you don't have much CP, or you're trying to maximize survival, because when in doubt, if you have tons of magic, you can just sit there and breath of life. But once you get better, take the training wheels off, go with the Apprentice. Lover is also good for more offensive penetration, but we should have enough of that with our sets, especially running Cyrodiil. Attributes points, in case you care, 64 points all in the magic. And let's talk about the champion points. Visit my website below for a little bit more detailed description, but I'll just go over the slottables that I would recommend using. I'd go with Rejuvenation in the fitness tree, Expert Evasion, Boundless Vitality, and Slippery. In the warfare tree, I'd go with Duelist Rebuff, Untamed Aggression, Arcane Supremacy, and Deadly Aim. In the craft tree, I would go with Treasure Hunter, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, and Steed's Blessing. And that is the Magplar build. I will have some more videos on PvP, other PvP builds, but I realized that I would have to utilize proc sets as I started ranking up and my MMI got higher and I played steeper and steeper competition. This build for me all around is incredible. I finally was able to be just a murdering machine with the Templar, and also be able to be survivable. Yes, I die. Yes, I get blown up just like everyone else, but I feel like a powerful ally, a powerful person on the battlefield. I can do damage. I can blow people up. I can survive. I can line of sight. I'm mobile. I have great resource sustain. I have group utility. I can stun. I got range, I can get up in your face, you can just do it all. So for once, I really do like the Magplar in PvP, and will hopefully stop complaining for a little bit. So looking up to next patch, hopefully it will be really good. But I plan on rolling this, maybe making some slight adjustments. So feel free to farm the gear, and look forward to another build if it changes. But this should be very strong when Blackwood launches in June as well. Thanks for watching.